What up, folks? What it do? Welcome to another episode of the Best Advice Ever podcast. Yeah, with your boy, Mike Goodwin, the bow-tied comedian. And we start each and every episode with the actual best advice ever. And today's best advice ever is something that I've been practicing pretty recently. And it's simply to read fiction novels. Yes, read fiction novels. I'm an avid reader. I enjoy reading, but what I've found most recently is I haven't been finishing books. I read a lot of, I guess you would say, self-help business books, books of particular time periods, nonfiction, whether that's autobiographies or profiles of individuals. And for whatever reason, I just not have been finishing these books. And we've had this conversation before about the idea of audible versus reading. And I'm talking reading books now. And let me make this statement. Most times, if a book is really good, I'm gonna do both anyway. So if I'm reading a book and I think it's really good, I'll go and get it on Audible if I want to hear it again. Or if I'm listening to a book on Audible that's really a good book, I'm going to go purchase the book. It's wow. Because this just happened recently at church. I think my pastor asked who finished a book. So I don't even want to say the person's name. People get all weirdo, and I don't want that from y'all. And I finished the book, but I don't remember if I read the entire book or I listened to it on Audible. But I know I finished it. And so it's wild to think that like you cheating because you listened to a book. But again, I guess this is what we as Gen X's and boomers and older folks be carrying on about. Because these young folks, I don't even know if they reading a book. I think they chat GPT in books out here, man. And we harassing people about whether they audible in books or they reading books. However, I've not been finishing books. And so I basically say, hey man, let me switch it up. Let me read some fiction novels. Let me read some books that I typically would not read. Now, again, I'm not I love novels. I read novels. My favorite books are novels. I've heard people often say they don't have time to read novels or novels. If they're going to take time to read a book, they're going to read something of substance. And I think people discount novels, and especially I'm not in the habit of poo-pooing on academic pursuits. Even if you're reading like those black eroticas, I guess you're reading. It's reading, and reading is fundamental. If you're reading adult literature, I'm sorry to slide it in there on y'all. Y'all might be listening with some kids in the car. Be like, Daddy, what is black? But reading is reading. And when I'm talking about novels, I'm thinking books that tell stories that are profound stories. And so I started reading novels recently. And I must say within the last maybe 2 months, I've probably read about 5 books. And the majority of them, I think 4 to 5 were novels. The other one was kind of a memoir, but it fell into the same, telling a story. So I would encourage you, if you're having some difficulties getting through books, you're not able to stay to the end for books, find some novels on topics that you really enjoy. Some novels that, oh man, if I keep forgetting, let me do this because my phone is trying to take over my Wi-Fi. You got a hotspot. My hotspot's tried to take over. Get your butt out of here, right? But find, I mean, and I've been reading novels, particularly about the Black experience. So one of the books that I most recently read was a book called The American Marriage. Basically, to summarize it, it was a book that profiled this couple that got married, and maybe a few months into their marriage, maybe not a year into their marriage, the husband was sent to prison, was wrongfully arrested, went to prison, I want to say 5 years, but 5 years, maybe 10 years. I mean, I think it's 5 years unlawfully. And how do you continue your life? Do you go back and life as usual? So it was very profound story. Pretty incredible story. I read The Women of Brewster's Place. Again, I think the thing that I've realized with novels, that the characters from novels stay with me longer. I watch a lot of shows, Netflix, Hulu, all those type. I watch a good amount of shows, and I just think that novels, those characters stay a little longer. So I read The Women of Brewster Place, which was very moving. I'm not certain that I watch the movie, so I want to go and find the movie. Another book that I read, so I read that, The Women of Brewster Place, American Marriage. Another book was a book called Heavy. It's a guy, chronicling his experience as a young boy growing up in Mississippi. It was a single parent home. He was academically talented, but had some challenges. Being a young Black guy in Mississippi, went to Millsap College, which is a very, private liberal arts school in Mississippi, and ultimately got asked to leave because he stole a book out of the library. But there was some other reasonings, kind of coming of age story. I can't remember the other book that I read, and I was just kind of running through these books, man. And I'm currently reading, I think, Deacon King Kong is the book I'm reading now, but I'm also reading Deacon King Kong. I'm reading Uncommon Favor, Dawn Staley, and there's a book about, I don't know, I forgot the title, but a book about a South Carolinian, Robert Smalls, who commandeered a Confederate ship in Charleston and escaped slavery and became a state senator, and on and on. So that's one of the things I'm trying to do too. And maybe I'll talk about that in a second. But I highlight stories from South Carolina, and I'll talk about South Carolina in a second. But yeah, the best advice ever: it's read a fiction novel. Read something that, and again, one of my favorite books of all time is The Great Gatsby. I'm a huge Invisible Man was a great book. There also was the Kite Runner. That was, man, that one of the best books I've ever read. So fiction. I'm a big, huge Jack Reacher fan. So now I typically will listen to the Jack Reachers on Audible, but I would encourage you to get into some novels that break up the monotony. If you're a person that haven't been successfully reading stories or finishing books, jump into some fiction, some fiction. Jump into some stories. One of my, I got a buddy of mine. The Old Man in the Sea is one of his favorite books. I read it, but it didn't move me in the same way that it moved him. But he swears by that book, and it's not really a long read. And what's interesting about the books I've read recently, I've devoured them. I'm talking about in a week or so. Like I just got through them because they were just so engaging and it was so interesting. I got to think of that other book. There's another book that's in that grouping, and I just have had a really good time reading fiction and hearing stories and thinking about life through maybe perspectives that I didn't typically have. That's especially the perspective for the women of Brewster Place. It's profiling all women in their stories, and so I'm gaining a lot of great insight or just creativity because I think one of the things personally, and I don't think you really need to have all these reasons for everything that you do, but one of the things that I want to be is a better storyteller. And one of the ways I think that you can improve your storytelling is to immerse yourself in great storytelling, right? So I'm reading books that are highly recommended, people that have talked about how good a book it was and that they enjoyed reading it. And so I think that is very important for what I'm trying to accomplish in terms of improving my communication skills and even working with communicators to better tell stories and engage their audience. And so I would love to hear from you. What are your top 5 fiction novels? Like what are the books, and I haven't been necessarily uh, targeted to one particular author outside of the Jack Reacher series. I remember being in college and I read a book by Robert B. Parker, and it was similar. It was just, I think that character was used for a TV show. Let's take a look. Robert B. Parker article. Robert B. And I don't know if it's Robert B. Parker. Yeah, Spencer for Hire. Spencer for Hire was the show that was the show that um, Robert B. Parker's articles became a television show, right? And I remember just having a great experience in college literature. Like I think it was English 101, reading that novel. So it's summertime. Get your summer reading together. I just think it's always good to exercise your mind. We talk about exercising our body, even if those of us that are spiritual, we talk about our spirit and strengthening the spirit man. But I would encourage people to don't neglect your soul. That's your emotions, your will, your intellect. Give your intellect some reps. Let your intellect get his sweat on. Do some intellectual cardio, right? And read some fiction. So that's today's best advice ever. As I spoke earlier, I was talking about South Carolina, and I think I am, and I've been doing it kind of indirectly, but I'm gonna be a little bit more deliberate about it, and that's repping South Carolina, being a person that holds the banner up for South Carolina. I typically go to Texas, and anytime I go to Texas, I do the same. I have the same kind of line that I do, and I'll say, man, people from Texas love Texas, and it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter if you're from Dallas, Doesn't matter if you're from Houston. You can be from Lubbock. And if you say, it's Texas in the house, people be like, woo, Texas. Texas, people from Texas love Texas. And I always would say, I'm from South Carolina. We don't love South Carolina like that. We don't really rep like that. And I think for a variety of reasons. And I even think about my experience in the state. I think about when you go to when I was in college and they would have probate shows and people would come out for fraternities and sororities. There's cities in South Carolina that people have a lot of love for. And I personally think Charleston probably is the most enthusiastic group of people. You had the Chuck. I'm just, and this is not researched. This is not empirical evidence. It's just my own observations, basically. Charleston, people from Charleston like to represent Charleston. I think Columbia, the Metro, Columbia gets a great amount of love. Greenville, and then you may sometimes get Greenville / Spartanburg. They kind of join together. But I don't know if people from Sherrall, right? I don't know if there are people shouting out Sherrall. I don't know if there are people Aiken. Aiken seems very subdued. If there was somebody that was on a line and they were coming out from Aiken, hi, my name is Charlie Jones, and I'm from Aiken, South Carolina. People might be clapping. Little golf clap. Camden the same way. I like Camden. We are proud Camdenites, but I don't foresee. I did just meet a gentleman, an older gentleman from Detroit. He lives in Detroit. I'm brother of Kappa Alpha Psi, but he's from Camden, and he was very enthusiastic to meet me and for us to have some conversations. So I just grew up, man, where I remember when kind of the West Coast, East Coast thing jumped off. Southerners would typically take a side. I'm with New York. I'm with California. I grew up in a home with two siblings. I got a younger brother and a younger sister. You would swear that my sister was from Connecticut. We have family members from Connecticut. They would come down every summer. I don't know if my sister went to Connecticut at some point, but she just was not pleased with being from Camden. And I guess she wanted to say she was from Connecticut. And that was similar to many, many folks that we grew up with, people that would move down. And I think there's a time limit on, like, if you grew up, if you born, like, for instance, Chris Rock was born in South Carolina, but he grew up in New York. So I'm going to give him that. But I do feel like there's a number of celebrities, there's a number of people that have South Carolina ties that really are very quiet, really don't make a lot of noise about it. And if I would say their names, you'd be a little surprised. Like Peabo Bryson. Now, Peabo Bryson didn't have the music that would, have him making songs about South Carolina, but Peabo Bryson is from the Palmetto State. Smoking Joe Frazier. Now, again, some of these people were born in South Carolina and grew up some other places, but throw us a bone, give us a shout out, give us a head nod. Jeezy's from Columbia, South Carolina, moved to Atlanta. I think he even was in Columbia for a little bit. So I want to do a better job of communicating stories about South Carolina, people from South Carolina. Again, I've done it inadvertently. I've done it when I talk about being from Camden, and I got family members from New York. So I got a bit about that. I do talk about being from the South with an F and not a TH. But I want to do more material that may be South Carolina based. Maybe I think that there's an opportunity to talk about barbecue, right? There's such a debate on the types of barbecue. You got mustard base, you got vinegar base, you have like Texas. I don't want to be the guy that's the expert on barbecue, but I did have an idea of like barbecue, uh, like racism. Like if there was a like different places have different types of racism. Racism jokes really don't be flying, man. I be trying them. People don't be laughing, man. I really be trying, but they don't make it. They don't make it a lot of times. So I will be very excited to see how people respond to some of my South Carolina based material. I even was doing something recently. I haven't really explored it any further, but I talked about being Southern and not country. I'm Southern. I'm not country. I don't have no shade to country people, but I am a little country city boy, right? You know, we didn't have chickens in the yard. We did not have to go to town for groceries shopping. Uh, that was people that were from Cassett or Lugoff, you know, a little further up the what we would say up the country. But again, but I'll take country. If somebody's like, "Hey man, you from South Carolina? You country? Cool." I'm not gonna argue. I'm not trying to be country, but I'm just saying that there's some nuance. There's some difference. Like when I joined the military, everybody wanted to call me Geechee. They found out I was from South Carolina. Oh, you Geechee. You one of them Geechee boys. And I'm not. I'm not Geechee. I'm not from Charleston. That's Charleston, Beaufort, the low country, right? And if I was Geechee, I'd be like, yeah, no doubt. The boy Geechee. And I had the bam on them boy, you know, but I'm not. I'm from South Carolina, but I'm not Geechee, right? So just to have the even have that conversation, like to bring that is good because I'm looking to do more military materials. I'm gonna talk about, yeah, I could talk about how even when I go to Charleston, I never really talk about how when I joined the army, everybody was like, man, you Geechee. I'm not Geechee. You eat rice with everything. I'm like, no, I don't eat rice with everything. So South Carolina based, I would love to spend a little bit more time in my content talking about the Palmetto State. So I'm working on that. And I would love any advice, any suggestions. I talk about Larry Doby, who's from my hometown. I'll talk about Camden, from Camden, home of Larry Doby and his crickets, right? And I'm like, oh man, nobody knows Larry Doby. And every now and again, there'll be a person that knows who Larry Doby is. But then I'm like, you know who, you don't know Larry Doby, but you know who, man, I hadn't done that joke in a while. Um, oh, Jackie Robinson. So I'm like, you don't know who Larry Doby is, but you know who Jackie Robinson is, right? Jackie Robinson is the first African American to break the color barrier in the MLB. Larry Doby is the second. He did it a mere 3 months. But nobody seems to know Larry. And I get it because it's like after it's been done, people don't really pay much attention. But Larry not only, I think, was the second person to win to play in Major League, but I think he was the Larry had a lot of seconds. I think he was the second person to win a Major League championship. And then I think Larry did something with the NBA. So I'm gonna really spend some more time deep diving into someone because I have material that I have started, but I just haven't I haven't explored it and made it something that I do regularly, and I'm known for my Larry Doby joke, right? So we're gonna work on that. And then before we get out of here, man, I watched this clip. Shout out to Nick Saban. I just love sports, man. I'm always looking at sports content. And one of the running backs from Alabama was telling a story about how he was late to a meeting. He was only late once, tried to sneak into the meeting. You know, that's a no-no for Nick Saban. You know, you show up, you're accountable. So the guy, he slid in to the meeting and No one said anything to him. Then the next day, Nick Saban comes up to him the game day and basically was like, "Hey, you're not going to be playing today. I'm going to give this other running back an opportunity, and you'll be a cheerleader today, right?" Nick goes to walk off, and he comes back. He said, "Hey, let me explain to you. I'm not benching you because you were late. You made a mistake. I'm benching you because you didn't come to me and be accountable. You didn't acknowledge your mistake. You didn't say, 'Hey, coach, I was late today. I apologize. What can I do to correct this situation?'" The fact that you chose not to address me shows me that there's some accountability issues that you need to work on as a leader. And the young man said, "Man, this was a very, very impactful moment. It really gave him insight on how powerful the game of football could be to help him navigate through life and make better decisions." So shout out to Coach Nick Saban, man, and the lessons that he taught many, many athletes. As a matter of fact, I watched him on the Pivot podcast, and uh, pretty impressive man and leader of men. Always enjoy hearing stories about Nick Saban, hearing him speak, and celebrating his success. Man, he had a very tremendous run in his professional, in his coaching career, not just at Alabama, but all the stops in between. LSU had an outstanding run there at LSU. Then he went to Miami and even didn't have the type of success he wanted to have. But even the stories that they shared on the Pivot was like, oh man, I can see him still impacting people, even though they were not having the success on the field that they wanted. Well, hopefully this has been a successful podcast for you to tune into and enjoy. Again, man, stay abreast. Go to MikeGoodwin.com if you want to know the dates in which I'll be in your area. Also, my social media, y'all make sure you go over there and jump on board and follow the journey, man. We're about to really level up this thing and take it to another level, man. So thank y'all for tuning in. I would love for you to like, share, subscribe. I don't know, not subscribe, but like just sign up, like get notifications. And I drop this podcast every Wednesday, man. Every Wednesday about noon, maybe a little bit before that. But shout out to you for being a consistent listener, and thank you for tuning in. And we'll be back again next week. Same bat channel, same bat place. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and I appreciate it. I'll see you next time. Peace.